Good evening or good morning, wherever you are. I present myself. My name is Younes. I'm a PhD researcher in the Laboratory of Food, Environment, and Health in Morocco. I'm very happy to be, to be here with you today and share with you, you know, something, about what we did. In the past, we was talking about some problems, some issues that are related to environment and climate change, and and the effects, on water, marine ecosystems, in agriculture, and everything. But now it is time, I think, to talk about some solutions and adaptation methods. Forgive me first about my English. I'm a French speaker, so if I'm lost, I will ask you, Sarah, okay?
Okay.
So I'm gonna just today, I did a lot of stuff in Morocco, but today I'm gonna share with you just a project that I was mentoring with a guy from Nigeria in the program Care About Climate. The result was very good. Just an example, and I can't talk about anything, but just this example, I will talk about what he did, through this process and the adaptation that we did. So before doing this, I would like to share with you this quote from the British scientific Stephen Hawking that the scientific community has loved in recent months. He was one of the recognizable and admired scientists of all time. One day he said, intelligence is the ability to adapt to change. And, this is the key of what I'm gonna present. It's like the adaptation. There is some issues, we know, but what happened now. I think it is time to adapt to this change and to try to find. So for the project that I was mentoring with the guy, his name is Yoboza from Nigeria. Him and his group, the project was to carry, awareness. Some stakeholders and the government, and especially the environmental community into this project. Of course, this project,
We lost him. One sec. Now we got you back.
no, I don't know what happened. I'm sorry. I have to share again. I don't know what happened. Sorry for this. It's good now?
Yes.
Sorry for this. I don't know what happened. Wow. Okay. So I said is to organize, to develop some skills, of the group, to build the leading team in a time of 2 weeks. And the step, it's like to to study the materials, the mentorship sessions, and the training. This is the first step. The second, and also to develop some knowledge about about this topic. And we was really focused, you know, Leo Boza was talking about the problem of waste in his area. So we said we're gonna focus on the effects of waste in his environment, and, you know, try to find, you know, to share the awareness and share some solution and adaptation. So the first meeting was with the Commissioner of Environment and Sustainability, 28 September in Benin, Nigeria. So you know, for this meeting, the Commissioner of the Environment promised, you know, to build some environmental clubs, to create them, and to support the planting, the tree planting, and also to support our work. The second meeting was a visit in the National Orientation Agency. You know, the director thanked us for the volunteering and to awareness on climate change, and they promised to be a part of our first November event. And they also promised to assist, you know, in our events. The second visit that Lioboza and the teams did was with the Commissioner for Youth and Specialists. We invite him and his ministry to the event of 1st November. And he also promised to give us all, you know, the needed support to make, you know, our event a huge success, and he encouraged us also to not give up and just continue our project. So the day of the event, in the 1st of November, all the responsibles from the Nigerian government were present, and that makes us very happy to see them between us. They are the deciders, we are the scientists and environmentalists. And we was very surprised. I was in France in that moment. Sometimes I'm in France, in Morocco, and I was following every step that Lioboza and his team, you know, was making, and I was taking things very seriously, following every step what we did, you know, giving some tips about everything and the organization and everything. I was very surprised to see more than 100 people reach the event in the 1st of November. And it was really a good interaction, and people, you know, they have this desire to share this awareness and to adapt to change. So here is, you know, the poster of our event. I've never been in Nigeria, but makes me really interested to see, to go there and see what's happening out there. There is some pictures of the event in Nigeria. This is the team. We was working all together to make these events a huge success. It was just an example between a lot for what we did. You know, I said, like the Stephen Hawking says, intelligence is the ability to adapt to change. I think there is a lot of problems going on in the world, not only in Nigeria or Morocco or France or whatever, but I think it is time to be all together to face this big problem, which is climate change. I see this every day. I swear, climate change every day in my research, and I think it is time. We cannot, I mean, go back on time, but the solution, I think, in my opinion, is to adapt to it, to adapt to this change, and to move forward and try to do some things like this. You know, there is, you know, despite I know there was a distance. Sometimes he's based in Nigeria. All this team in Nigeria. I was in Morocco and France, traveling and stuff, and there was distance, but we don't really felt this distance. It was really a beautiful exchange, and we was working day by day. You know, I was very happy to, you know, to make it through, and we are looking for more and more and more work and projects in the future. And yeah, merci beaucoup. Thank you so much.
Hey, I guess it's
So
my
this is your
turn.
turn. It's your turn, Adrian.
I kind of wanted to share a Jamaican scenario to ecosystem-based adaptation methods. But first, I kind of want to, never remember that was there. So for those of you who don't know where Jamaica is, that's where Jamaica is located on the map. The inset map is a general photo of the Caribbean, and that's where we're located. And for this presentation, I'm going to be focusing on the areas with the stars over them, especially with regards to the regions in St. Andrew and Kingston, and a little bit on Portland and St. Thomas. And for those who don't know, that's a definition for ecosystem-based adaptation. It's basically the use of green infrastructure along with gray infrastructure. Gray infrastructure is like what we live in, like our homes, our buildings, sea walls, those kind of stuff, which is slightly different from disaster risk reduction, which is aimed at installing these green and gray infrastructure to combat disasters specifically. So some of the environmental struggles that you might come in contact with that might affect your ecosystem-based adaptation. Things would be pollution, biodiversity loss, sustainable livelihoods, and EBA approaches can also help to remediate some of these problems. Little context in terms of Jamaica with regards to disasters. Between 2010 and I believe it's 2014, or between 2002 to 2010, we have had 10 major hurricanes that affected the island. Actually, there are more hurricanes that have affected the island, but only 10 were like category 4 and 5. Suffice it to say that there were tropical storms and there were hurricanes that have affected the island that are category 3 and lower. In the context of water or groundwater, 80% of our water resources are from groundwater, meaning rivers and streams. Back in 2014 and 2015, we had a 9-month stretch of drought. And subsequent to that, we had another stretch of drought. So we literally only had like about 2 months worth of rain that year for those 2 years. And I also wanted to show you, just kind of set the context of the pollution side of what I'm going to be talking about later. I'm sharing with you a little video from my home country, from my home community. Okay, so the first location that I wanted to look at was with regards to my undergraduate research. I focused on a small part of the Hunts Bay, which is where I am at in the purple shirt, and the bottom photo where you're seeing that concrete slab. And where also you have the industrial belt with those industrial tools. Now behind of there, in that location is called Hunts Bay, and it's being inundated with garbage, really. The second location would have been Refuge Key in the middle of the harbor, where most of the garbage that comes out of Hunts Bay ends up on the eastern side of that key. And what has happened is that most of the ecosystem, mangrove ecosystem that would have used as EBA strategies to defend the harbor has been affected by the effluent coming out. So what I found in my study was that the red mangroves were disappearing in the northern parts of Hunts Bay, because of course, if you know anything about red mangroves, they germinate in the canopy and they javelin down into the substratum. Now, with a layer of plastic, that can't happen. And so you can see that the red mangroves on the eastern side of the key has disappeared, along with the black mangroves in the center of the key. Yeah, and I had to kind of go through that mess. This is the Palisadoes strip, which is close by the same refuge key. What we've done is to, what the government has done is to put in gray infrastructure like boulders to help mediate the erosion of the key from wave action, especially during hurricane time. But what the problem is that they've not restored some of the mangrove ecosystem, which is not an EB approach, right? It's just gray infrastructure, right? So in the past, the entire coastline of the Kingston Harbor would have been covered with mangroves, which would have made the area more resilient. The other struggle that we have is pests and diseases, especially when it concerns both health and agriculture. Now, on the agricultural end, we have a parish called St. Elizabeth, which had one of the stars on it. The scallion industry has been impacted by the bull or beet armyworm, because in some of those sections they don't practice organic agriculture, and so that's one of our EBA strategies now that we're now implementing to kind of build the awareness of organic agriculture and its purposes for sustaining the agricultural sector. And Yes, so St. Elizabeth is in eastern part of the island, but I'll be focusing mostly on, sorry, St. Elizabeth is in the western part of the island, sorry, but I'll be focusing mostly on the eastern because I'm in eastern Jamaica, which has the 4 stars remaining. So the first EBA project that I was able to work on, well, in phase 1 really, now it's phase 2. The JA Reach project, Jamaica Rural Economy and Ecosystem Adapting to Climate Change, is a project that was mostly focused on youth. It's still mostly focused on youth, but it has made inclusions for older persons. And what they've done is to look at select a watershed area in along the coast, along the borders of St. Mary and Portland, right? And what they've done is what they're trying to do is doing a reef, a spring to reef approach in terms of their EBA strategy. So what they've done is to replant, as you can see in the top left-hand corner, replant some of the watershed areas. They're doing fire management training with firefighters, as you can see in the top right-hand corner. They've also included the a beekeeping element, and I'm kind of happy about that because I'm also a beekeeper. And in the bottom photos, you can I was able to participate in their mangrove reforestation sponsored event. And I was able to participate in that. The second project that I was able to participate in, which I'm helping the monitoring and evaluation for, kind of in office, really in office, because I'm doing this from home, but making sure that they have the monitoring and evaluation tools, is JOM, Agroforestry and Beekeeping project. And this is located in Portland and St. Thomas, right? So there's what we're focusing on a watershed in Portland and a watershed in St. Thomas, because those 2 parishes are largely ignored by environmental interventions, right? And so this is the first crop of beekeepers that were trained, and they're also given seedlings to plant in their own local area. This will help mediate and moderate the movement of water in those 2 parishes. Now there's a contrast between those 2 parishes. Portland gets a lot of rain and they get flooded a lot. St. Thomas is the reverse. They don't get a lot of rain. So because a lot of the charcoal burners have kind of cut down some of the trees in the area as well, kind of magnifying the fact that they're in a rain shadow, right? So Aronde McNish, or chief beekeeper in trainer, has trained the group in St. Thomas, and also some of the persons from Portland. Now, one of my study sites, Refuge Key, recently had some interventions. They're very close to Portland. Port Royal. And so my university, I studied my geography and zoology degree. Through their Port Royal Marine Lab, was able to partner with the Kingston Free Port Terminal Limited, which actually occupies parts of the harbor. And they were able to rent out fishermen boats to go on the quay and clean up the quay, right? Which would allow for a stream of water to re-enter the quay itself, to kind of give rise to the proliferation of black mangroves in the middle, and also hopefully the ecosystem itself can restore some of the red mangroves in the area. That project lasted for a year. Now, along the Palisade of Spit that I showed you about with the boulders on it earlier, the Port Royal Marine Lab was also able to plant some mangroves along the coastline, but we still have some of the trash problems hampering the project, right? So we still need to deal with that. Every now and again they have to go in and clean the area to make sure that the remaining seedlings survive. So currently in my own community, I'm piloting something with regards to urban beekeeping. What I've done is to corner off me and my grandfather was able to corner off a local space where dumping was previously happening in front of our own home. And then we put in some trees locally there and some bees. What we've found is that persons have not dumped really much in the area, but they've dumped close to the area though. So what we have realized is that with us occupying open spaces and putting bees in there, because persons are also afraid of bees, they're not willing to go near the area. So you prevent a lot of persons going into the area and polluting. And with the trees there, you're also sequestering carbon. So that's one EBA strategy that we could use to curb both pollution, be it plastic or carbon. So, and then you also will be able to clean the air around you by planting the trees. And that's my presentation. You can ask me any questions you'd like.
Thank you, both of you. Those were really interesting presentations. It was really great to learn about the different tactics that are being used in Jamaica and Morocco and in Nigeria. I didn't expect to get to hear that part, so I like that addition. Adrian, one question for you about the mangrove plantings. Have you seen like differences in just the short time that you've been working with the mangroves in terms of storm recovery or storm damage?
So one of the things that the Port Royal Marine Lab has told me is that the reason why refuge key is so important is that the fishermen from Port Royal would normally use that particular island and also a particular channel there called the Ivan Goodbody Channel for safety when they get trapped in a storm. Unfortunately for the replantation on the Palisades Strip, because of the trash, about 75% of the seedlings were lost. And so they weren't able to measure adequately. But some of the areas were a lot more successful in terms of replantation. But they're still too young to measure against the storm damage. Because the last time a storm passed through was Hurricane Sandy in 2012.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't, when that hit us, it didn't pass through those areas. So those areas were largely unaffected by hurricane damage.
Okay. Hi, Kelvin. Thanks for joining. We just finished the presentations with Adrian and Eunice. They were talking about some ecosystem-based solutions to combating climate change. If you have any particular questions on this issue, feel free to ask, I guess. And then, Eunice, I have a question for you as well. What was one of the challenges of the mentorship program for you? And then what was your favorite part, I guess?
My favorite part was like this beautiful connection that we had, in the beginning of the project. It was a very good desire to make a change, you know what I mean? And to share this awareness. And the challenge is like to how to involve the government in this project. That was the big challenge for us. And finally we succeed. I mean, we really make it happen, you know what I mean? And there was as you know, there's cultural differences. Uh, their government is not like yours, like ours. It's totally different. I wasn't know how it works out there. It's like how it works. What's the system? For us, it's totally different. I was trying to work hard to understand what's going on there, to study area, to know what's going on, and to make a plan. You know what I mean? It was a very long process. It takes months to understand firstly what's going on there and everything. But in the end, I think there was distance, like I said. Sometimes I'm in Paris, sometimes I'm in Marrakesh. I have my work, and I was taking this seriously. I always find time to study and to discuss with Yoboza and his team, And, if you want to make something, you just, yeah, you will make it. So there was just the beginning, and we are looking forward to make more projects and share more awareness about this topic. That's it.
Awesome. I hope we can keep continuing with the Climate Ambassador program because I really liked it too. I'm glad to hear that you got a lot out of it. I had one more question. Let me think what it was. Shoot. Oh, you know what? It wasn't exactly a question. It was another example of an ecosystem-based solution that's being implemented in my community. So in the Chicago area, the native habitat is prairie. So a lot of grassland, and then oak trees are the most common or the most native tree, I guess. And so oak trees can support up to like 300 different types of species with one single tree. And so it's a really incredible tool for increasing biodiversity in the area. And I've been working with a group called, or actually two groups, one called Citizens for Conservation over the past year or so, and they do ecosystem restoration. So they go in, buy old cropland and farmland and things like that, and then they convert it back to prairie. And it's been so interesting to see over the past, I've lived in this community my whole life, and so I've seen it over the past just 22 years. Well, probably didn't notice it when I was a baby, but, and I've been able to see how this land has changed more and more because they've owned it, one of the particular plots of land, for 40 years. And so over 40 years, they've been able to completely restore the prairie such that like no maintenance is really needed. You're not going in and pulling out weeds anymore. It's just a resilient ecosystem, and it's just completely connected. It's really neat how they've gone, because it was originally prairie like 200 years ago. They found notebooks and diaries from people who originally settled that land. And it said, oh, we have this compass plant, we have this plant, that plant, that plant. And so they've tried to bring back in those species. And it's just incredible how much denser the soil is there, and how much cleaner the water is that runs through there, just because of this restored ecosystem. And it's really been a great solution for our community, not just because it's integral of the biodiversity and really includes that, but because it's something that is widely accepted. People recognize the beauty of that land, which is really nice. People recognize that this nature preserve has value from an aesthetic point of view, from an economic point of view, as well as from an environmental point of view. And so the area I live is very right-wing, very conservative politically. And so there's not a lot of people who are talking about climate change or environmentalism, but they do talk a lot about conservation. And so conservation of this ecosystem that used to be there is the value that they hold, despite not caring so much about the environment. And so it's been really interesting to see how that the wording of it has been so positive in making ecosystem solutions an effective solution for our area. Does anyone have further questions for Eunice or Adrian? Preferably Adrian right now.
I think I think most people missed my presentation.
Does anyone have questions in general about ecosystem-based solutions that they want to ask our notable geographer and beekeeper? Right, last chance for a question. Otherwise, I'm going to let these two leave because they've been on for an hour now. All right, thanks, Chair. Now, I'll send out the recordings later today, so that way you'll be able to see what their presentations.
Okay.
Right. Well, it looks like Eunice had to take a phone call, so we don't get to say goodbye to him. But thank you so much to Adrian and Eunice as well for their great presentations. I appreciate the two of you taking the time to put this together and share with us about your work. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Welcome.
Thank you to Adrian and Salah. Thank you, but I'm late. But it's a pleasure to the presentation. But I thought you will send us so that we can know what the presentation says.
Yes, I'll be sure to do that. We're still waiting for people to sign up for our May webinars. I think I saw I know Adrian signed up for June, but let me see if I have anyone for May signed up yet. And if not, I would encourage Cherno and Kelvin, you two are welcome to sign up for the next month's webinars.
I know Cherno has a topic that he wants to talk about.
Okay.
All right, May 10th, what do you think?
May 10th.
You want to
Like
present?
my topic of. Yeah, we can.
Sorry, putting you on the spot. You can talk to me afterwards and we can decide, when's a good time for you. But I would really love to see both of you present. We only have 2 months left, and part of the requirement of the program is that you present once and join at, I think we said 3 webinars. So I think most of you on the call are good for a number of webinars, but you need to, the 2 of you need to present. So I look forward to hearing from you. Oh, and if you're not comfortable presenting a webinar, you could also write something. So you could write like a blog or something, and we'll post it on our site.
Okay, that's okay. I wanted
Alright.
to present with Adrian, or like in June.
Oh,
Is that
yeah.
okay?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, okay. So we'll work on it,
Okay.
Adrian.
Okay,
Awesome.
no problem.
Great. So now I just need Kelvin to sign up.
Yeah, I think I also need to sign up. Like, if Sarah, you could kindly send it via Messenger or Facebook for the sign up site.
I think
I can add you right now. I'm on the document.
I think I put his name beside mine.
Oh, it is in there. Yep. Yeah, you're already on there.
Okay, that's great. Thanks so much, Adrian, for doing that.
So it's good you were planning on presenting, because otherwise you'd be there anyways.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining. It was great talking to you all, and have a great rest of your day.
You too.
Thanks so much. You too.
Bye.